So students, in this video I'll be discussing about the concept of why the circulation of blood in human being, it is called double circulation. Now this is the flowchart that I have drawn to let you know the pathway through which the blood flows. So let us begin. So this is the heart, this is the lung, this is just a diagrammatic representation. Suppose I begin my journey from the right auricle. So from the right auricle, I'll be going to the right ventricle. From the right ventricle through the pulmonary arteries, I'll be going to the lungs. The blood will be sent to the lungs for oxygenation. After oxygenation, the oxygenated blood will come through the pulmonary veins and it will enter into the left auricle. So once the blood has exited, and it has once again entered the heart, but it has not completed a full circulation because the blood hasn't reached the beginning point. Now from the left auricle, the blood will be sent over to the left ventricle. From the left ventricle through the aorta, the blood will go to the whole body for circulation. In the body, exchange of different substances will take place. That takes place at the level of the capillaries. No exchange takes place at the level of arteries or veins, because capillaries, their wall is made up of single layer of squamous epithelium. So in the exchange, after exchange of the gases, the deoxygenated blood will again come through the vena cava and it will reach the right auricle. So what we find, we have come back to the starting point. So in order to complete a full cycle, the blood has to enter the heart 2 times, and therefore the circulation of blood in human being is called double circulation. Now this part of the circulation, which involves the journey of the blood from the heart to the lungs through pulmonary arteries, back to the heart through pulmonary veins, this is called pulmonary circulation. And the other part of the journey, that is from the heart to the body through the aorta, from the body back to the heart through the vena cava. Since the blood is supplying to all the systems, that's why this is called systemic circulation. So overall we can say that the double circulation of blood in human being is made up of 2 parts, pulmonary circulation and systemic circulation. So that is the concept of double circulation. In the next diagram, I would like to explain to you the sequence of blood flow, that in what sequence the blood vessels appear. Now if you see, the blood comes in through the arteries. The arteries will break into finer branches which are called arterioles. Arterioles will further branch and they will form capillaries. Capillaries, at the level of capillaries, exchange of substances takes place. From this diagram I'll explain to you how lymph is formed and the functions of lymph. The capillaries will join to form venules. Venules will join to form broader veins. So this is the system through which, or the system or network of blood vessels through which the blood flows. Now before I go to lymph and how lymph is formed, what is the function of lymph, let us discuss the difference between arteries and veins. Normally, arteries, they have a thick wall. So arteries, they have a thick wall because the pressure of blood in the arteries is very high. If you look at the veins have a thinner wall. So veins have a thin wall compared to the arteries. So since the wall is thick, so the lumen inside, the space, the hollow space is called lumen. So arteries have a narrow lumen. Whereas veins, since the walls are thin, so they have a wider lumen. Next comes the most definitional difference between arteries and veins. Arteries always carry blood away from the heart. So you find the aorta and the pulmonary arteries, these are the main arteries of the body. So they will carry blood away from the heart, whereas veins, they always carry blood towards the heart, like pulmonary veins and the vena cava. That is the definitional difference. If someone asks you what is artery, arteries are blood vessels which carry blood away from the heart. And if someone asks you what are veins, veins are blood vessels which carry blood towards the heart. Other difference is that arteries generally carry oxygenated blood except pulmonary arteries, because pulmonary arteries are carrying deoxygenated blood to the lungs. So don't write the definition of arteries as arteries are blood vessels which carry oxygenated blood, because there is an exception. So what are arteries? You can say that another difference of arteries and veins is that arteries generally carry oxygenated blood except pulmonary arteries. Veins generally carry deoxygenated blood, the vena cava. These are all carrying deoxygenated blood except pulmonary veins. That is another difference. Then the flow of blood. Blood will flow through the arteries when the heart will pump. So the flow of blood in the arteries is in the form of spurts in wave-like fashion. So we say that blood flow in spurts. So when you feel your pulse, that is actually you are feeling the arteries. In veins, the blood flow is continuous. That is another difference, that in arteries, blood flow in spurts, in veins, the blood flow continuously. Then their location. Now in your arm, generally, if you see the blue color lines that you have, those are actually that of the veins. If you can see all these blue color lines, these are actually veins. So veins are superficial, they are on the surface, and arteries are deep seated, they are located deeper into the muscles. Another difference is arteries, they do not have any internal valves, but if in case of veins, if you see, veins generally have internal valves at regular intervals. Now why it is necessary? Because in arteries the blood will not flow back because the heart is actively pumping the blood, but in veins, as the blood is going against gravity, it has a tendency to fall back, so that backflow of blood is prevented by these valves. So overall, these are the differences between arteries and veins. Quickly let us recapitulate. Arteries carry blood away from the heart, veins carry blood towards the heart. Arteries generally carry oxygenated blood except pulmonary arteries. Veins carry deoxygenated blood except pulmonary veins. Arteries have thick walls, veins have thin walls. Arteries have narrow lumen, veins have wider lumen. Arteries are deep seated, veins are superficial. Arteries do not have internal valves, veins have internal valves. Blood flow through arteries in spurts, in veins blood flow continuously. And we can say about pressure also. Pressure of blood in the arteries is high, pressure of blood in veins is less. So these are the differences between arteries and veins. Now let us see how lymph is formed. Now when the blood will reach the capillaries, from the capillaries the fluid portion of the blood will come out. What is the fluid portion of the blood? That is plasma. But the whole plasma will not come out. What will not come out? Plasma minus the big size proteins. Big proteins cannot come out through the capillaries. So a fluid will come out from the capillaries. The whole blood will not come out. That fluid which comes out, that is the plasma without the big size proteins, and that is called body fluid or tissue fluid. Body or tissue fluid. So this body or tissue fluid will wet the tissues, and after that they generally do not enter into the capillaries. Where they will enter? They will enter into another set of vessels, and these set of vessels are called lymph vessels. So they will enter, so this tissue fluid will enter into the lymph vessels, and this lymph vessels will go, it has swollen portions in between. It will go and ultimately it will go where and join? It will go and join the veins. So this tissue fluid, the moment it will enter into the lymph vessel, it is known as lymph. The color of lymph is slight yellowish, which is the typical color of plasma, and these swellings, these are called the lymph nodes. These are called the lymph nodes. So what is the function of lymph? First thing is it is draining out, the lymph vessels drain out the excess tissue fluid. We must have heard people saying that water has got collected in this organ, people who gets disease. So collection of water means actually this tissue fluid gets collected. There is a failure of the lymph vessels. Lymph vessels are not able to drain out the tissue fluid. So first function is lymph vessels helps in removing the tissue fluid. Second, lymph will also help in supplying nutrients to deeper tissues where blood cannot reach. Third function is that these lymph nodes are the places where the lymphocytes mature. Lymphocytes is a type of white blood cells which provides the main immunity to our body by producing antibodies. So those lymphocytes, where they mature in the lymph nodes. So these are the overall. So lymph contains those lymphocytes and therefore they also help in providing immunity. So these are the basic functions of lymph. How lymph is formed, what is the composition of lymph. Lymph is nothing but blood plasma without the big size proteins, and what are the functions of lymph. Now we'll be discussing the last topic under circulation in human beings, and that is clotting of blood. So normally we know that when we get a cut and blood oozes out or comes out, after sometimes the blood becomes jelly like and it seals and the flow of blood stops. Now how it happens? Suppose we get a cut. Suppose we get a cut and the blood is flowing out. So the blood contains, blood platelets. So these blood platelets, suppose these are the blood platelets, on exposure to air, these blood platelets will break. And as the blood platelets break, they release a substance called thromboplastin. 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 Now this thromboplastin is an inactive substance, inactive protein. The moment it comes in contact with air, this thromboplastin will get activated and it will become active as thrombin. Okay, thrombin. So this thrombin, now what happens here? This thrombin will activate another protein, and that protein is present in the blood plasma. It is in an inactive form, so thrombin becomes active. Thrombin is the active protein. There is another protein called fibrinogen. This is a soluble protein. It is present as solution, just like salt is present as solution. So fibrinogen, it is a soluble plasma protein. So this fibrinogen, in presence of thrombin, it will get converted into some insoluble fibers which are made up of protein called fibrin. So fibrinogen will get converted into insoluble fibers made up of a protein called fibrin. So fibrinogen is getting converted into fibrin with the help of what? Thrombin. This fibrin, so it forms fiber. So suppose there is the cut portion of your arm, so the fibrin will form a network of fibers, and from inside what is coming out? Blood is coming out. So this fibrin will trap the blood cells. So fibrin plus the blood cells or blood corpuscles, together it forms the blood clot. So this is how the blood clots on when we get a cut. And in all this process, calcium plays a very important role. Calcium ions, they play a very important role in clotting of blood. Now this is a very basic concept for class 10 level concept. In higher classes you will get that it is not so simple. There are at least 13 factors which will activate one after another, leading to formation of blood clot. And recent studies have shown that one of the factor is nothing but a different form of another factor. That's why in total there are 12 factors, you can say. So this is the overall concept of clotting of blood. In the next video I will be discussing about transportation in case of plants, where we will be discussing about xylem and phloem transport.